Just 1 minute ago, the quiet hum of the capital was shattered as 1,872 tractors thundered through the city, rolling over bridges, blocking arteries of power and plunging Westminster into a state officials are already calling an unprecedented national breach. It began like a whisper, murmurs from rural towns, frustrated voices dismissed by ministers as background noise, but by dawn that whisper had grown into a roar powerful enough to shake the political establishment to its core. What stormed into London today was not a protest, it was a reckoning, a rebellion forged in farms, fields and forgotten villages, now unfolding in the heart of the nation's capital, where laws are made, promises are broken and ordinary people are so often ignored. Within minutes of the first tractor breaching the city limits, social media exploded with panic. Live streams multiplying by the second as disbelief turned into awe and awe into fear. Cabinet ministers reportedly vanished from public view. Advisors scrambled in corridors thick with confusion. Downing Street itself went into lockdown as a convoy stretching miles, unstoppable and united, advanced like an iron tide of frustration and fury. Authorities tried to regain control, issuing statements that sounded less like leadership and more like desperation. Police units were deployed, redirected, overwhelmed. Roadblocks crumbled under the sheer weight of agricultural machinery advancing with cold determination. No chants, no banners, no leaders waving to cameras, just silence. Heavy, deliberate silence. Broken only by the engines of nearly 2,000 farmers who had decided they would no longer be invisible. This was the moment the government had feared for months, a moment born from ignored warnings and secret briefings that some insiders say were deliberately buried. Reports now reveal a leaked document circulated quietly inside the Department for Environment that predicted rural unrest could escalate into a major security event if ministers pushed through controversial new regulations. The document was dismissed. And today, the consequences arrived at the gates of Parliament with unstoppable force. By mid-morning, London was under siege, commuters stranded, buses immobilised, emergency lines flooded. The capital, for the first time in decades, felt the tremor of a population rising not with speeches or petitions, but with machinery designed to tear soil and reshape landscapes. Now symbolically reshaping the political ground beneath the government's feet. Witnesses describe the scene as surreal. Tractors towering over cars, engines echoing through concrete canyons, farmers standing firm with the resolve of people who had finally reached breaking points. Some walked slowly beside their vehicles, faces stern, eyes fixed forward, refusing interviews, refusing distraction. Their silence was louder than any protest chant. It told a story of betrayal, endurance, and a nation pushed so far that its quietest citizens became its fiercest force. Inside Westminster, chaos tightened its grip. An emergency session was reportedly called after senior advisors warned the Prime Minister that today's tractor siege could evolve into a nationwide revolt if mishandled. MPs were ushered through back entrances as demonstrators closed in. Rumours spread that even Buckingham Palace had requested security updates every 50 minutes, concerned not only about the unrest, but about what this uprising revealed: an erosion of trust, a fracture between rulers and the ruled, a moral crisis now unfolding in real time. As pressure mounted, the Prime Minister faced a choice that could define his legacy: confront the farmers and risk inflaming the nation, or back down and expose a government too fragile to stand its ground. Every corridor in power trembled with that question. But out on the streets, the farmers' message was unmistakable. They were not here for negotiation, they were here for recognition. They were here because they believed Westminster had forgotten who feeds the country, who sustains its traditions, who carries the weight of its land on their shoulders. Their march into London was not simply a protest, it was a declaration, a warning, a line drawn in diesel and dirt across the heart of the capital. And as the city watched from windows, rooftops and screens, one truth became impossible to ignore. This was no longer a political issue, this was a national confrontation, A standoff between those who govern from marble halls and those who work in mud, rain and sacrifice. Now the world is asking the question. Westminster refuses to answer. How did it come to this? Who allowed tensions to escalate until London became a battleground between the countryside and the states? And what will the government do when the next move could either calm the nation or ignite something far more dangerous? The second wave hit London just as officials believed they had a moment to breathe. That illusion collapsed instantly. Sirens wailed across Westminster as another column of tractors emerged from the outskirts, pushing deeper into the city with a precision that stunned security analysts. It was no longer simply a demonstration. It looked like a coordinated rural mobilisation. The government's command centre, buried beneath Whitehall, received reports faster than it could process them. Bridges gridlocked, arterial roads sealed, and thousands of pedestrians standing frozen as the capital transformed into a maze of steel and determination. Ministers who once mocked farmer warnings now watched the crisis unfold with pale faces, suddenly aware that the people they ignored were now dictating the pace of national events. Inside the emergency briefing room, voices clashed. One senior official demanded immediate force. Another warned that a violent response could trigger the largest civil breakdown in modern UK history. Every option carried risk. Every delay increased panic. And all the while, the farmers kept advancing, resolute and unstoppable. What terrified Westminster most was not the tractors, it was the unity. Thousands of individuals from different counties, long divided by distance and regional politics, now moved with one purpose. Their anger had fused into something larger than protest, something Westminster could neither predict nor control. At 11:40 a.m, a confidential report leaked onto social media claiming that intelligence services had been tracking rural discontent for months. The document, stamped restricted, suggested that the government had dismissed multiple warnings about rising frustration over new agricultural taxes and foreign import policies. The leak ignited the public like dry tinder. Hashtags demanding ministerial resignations trended within minutes. Commentators accused the Prime Minister of either incompetence or deliberate deception. And somewhere deep inside Westminster's fortified walls, fear shifted into something darker, self-preservation. Witnesses near Trafalgar Square described a moment that symbolised the day's tension. A lone police officer attempted to stop a tractor from entering the roundabout. The farmer climbed down, walked towards him and simply placed a worn, dirt-stained glove into the officer's hand. The officer stepped aside. No words were exchanged, no aggression, just the quiet truth of a nation divided between those who enforce the rules and those who bear the consequences of them. Small moments like that spread across the city, whispered from street to street, deepening the sense that something historic was taking shape. Something more profound than a march, more organised than a riot, more principled than chaos. Inside Parliament, preparations were being made for what insiders called the confrontation. Senior ministers were ushered into a secure chamber, away from cameras, away from reporters, away from accountability. According to multiple sources, a heated argument erupted between the Home Secretary and the Minister for Agriculture. One demanded a firm crackdown. The other insisted the government had caused this crisis by treating farmers as an inconvenience instead of a national foundation. Their clash was interrupted by a chilling message from security officials. The tractors had reached Parliament Square. The heart of British democracy was now encircled by the very people the government had underestimated. The symbolism was staggering. Farmers standing where monarchs once addressed the nation, where great debates had shaped centuries. Now the ground trembled, not with speeches, but with engines idling like a warning heartbeat. As tension escalated, Buckingham Palace broke its silence. A source close to the palace revealed that the king was deeply concerned and had requested a full briefing on the government's handling of rural communities. His statement, though measured, carried a weight that ministers could not ignore. For the first time in this growing crisis, moral authority shifted away from Westminster. The public sensed it. Commentators sensed it. Even MPs sensed it. The idea that the monarchy itself was watching closely added a new dimension, a reminder of duty, tradition, and the fragile balance between authority and legitimacy. Some speculated that the Prime Minister feared a direct royal intervention, a rare but devastating rebuke that could shatter public confidence in the government overnight. By early afternoon, the tractors were no longer just symbols of protest, they were symbols of endurance. Journalists interviewed farmers who had driven through the night, refusing rest, refusing hesitation. One man from Lincolnshire said he hadn't seen his family in 3 days, but felt he had no choice. If they crush us, they crush the country. We're the last line.